Good day, everybody. Dave here, back in the shop. I know it's been a while since I put anything out in terms of content. I know one of those content creators is going to say, or has already said, you got to put something out there on a regular basis, at least once a week, and in order to maintain some interest in what you're doing. And I think that's because they're making money on their stuff and I'm not, and so honestly, it's just been too bloody hot. It's been in the 90s for a whole bunch of consecutive days, and I just haven't felt like coming out in the shop and doing anything. It is air conditioned, so I can, but woodworking for me in the shop is primarily a winter time activity, so that's generally when I'm out here, obviously. But today I am tasked by She Who Must Be Obeyed to take apart this small four-legged table, and I should have really started this when I started taking it apart to show you what kind of shape it was in, but it's a $5 table that Sue got at a garage sale, estate sale in Cottage Grove, and she's a sucker for small tables and particularly old stuff, and so for $5 can't hardly beat it. So when she asked the gal, the story behind this is she asked the gal what they wanted for the table, and somebody looked at it and it was wobbly and loose, and it's just covered in decades of grime, and even though it is oak, it's an old table that hasn't probably been touched in Lord only knows how long. They took one look at it and said $5. So for $5 we're in. She's probably in for $10, but beyond $10 it's a stretch. So she's thrifty, and we need another table, like we need a good swift kick where the sun don't shine, so we really don't need it. She didn't need it, but needs and wants, as we all know, two very separate and distinct things. She wanted it, we don't need it. But for $5 we're in. She got up to the checkout, and there was another table that she paid $5 for that had been left out in the elements, in the rain, and it is in much rougher shape than this one. So 2 tables, $10. So she gets up to the place where you pay for your stuff, and whoever was sitting there looked online and saw a table very similar to this and said to Sue, they're selling these for $150 on Etsy. Well, this isn't Etsy, and by the way, for $500 we're out. $150, I'm sorry, $150. Like, we're out. No, by the way, lastly, she already said $5. Well, will you give me 10 for it? Well, we're not going to argue over a 5 spot, so $10. So she gets to the place where she actually has to exchange the money for the goods. This gal was sitting kind of off to the side, and she was there, and she said, they told you $5. It's only going to be $5. So she got the table for $5. It's a nice little table. I think once it's all put back together, it'll be kind of cool, I guess, if you're into tables. It is solid oak. Ouch. Sliver. The top is 5 separate pieces. The middle one separated from the outside pieces, which is really common for any kind of wood, especially if it's exposed to a lot of heat and humidity. And I talked about this in a much earlier video. As the wood expands this direction, instead of lengthwise, horizontally instead of this direction. So I'm sure this is tongue and groove. Not a deep tongue, not a deep groove, and all of this stuff was put together with hide glue. And if you remember my primer on glue, hide glue was commonly used very early on in furniture making, and they did it for a variety of different reasons. And it is one of the least durable glues over extended periods of time. So it gets hard, gets brittle, breaks apart. There was no mechanism underneath that held all the pieces together. Normally you'd have a piece underneath with slots instead of just straight holes. It did have these two pieces underneath to fill in what's commonly called the skirt board, but the holes weren't elongated, which would have allowed that expansion and contraction without necessarily breaking the joints. It's never a guarantee that it won't break the joints, but it may have, who knows. So there was only 2 screws holding the outer pieces and 1 small nail to hold everything, I suppose, together while they were drilling and screwing it into the bottom of the top, if that makes sense. So those 2 expanded and contracted, and the centerpiece didn't expand and contract at the same rate at the same time, and therefore it cracked. And who knows how long that crack has been there. My guess, it's been a long time, because the edges of the center and the edges of where the center matches up are no longer really nice and straight. Things have been drug over the top of it for years and years and years, and just kind of naturally rounded it off as it's been worn away, possibly by somebody maybe brushing it, scraping the dirt off, washing it once in a while. It just naturally is going to wear that edge off, so they're no longer really nice and square. And so now the decision is, how do you want this thing to look when it's done? You want it to look like a nice finished piece, like it's been just made, because it's going to get refinished. We have to strip all the junk and dirt and just kind of crap off of it. There's rings where obviously probably plants have been set on it, and the finish is just gone. Antique dealers will say, oh, it's worth more with an original finish on it, which may be true, but this thing at best is a $25 or $50 table. Once it's all re-glued, and that's assuming that I want to re-glue everything with hide glue, which I probably won't do, simply because we're just going to put it together. We're not going to try to cut the edges and try to refinish everything. I'd have to cut the tongue off, I'd have to cut the groove off, I'd have to remake a nice flat edge using the joiner, and have to do that, and then you end up with a piece where the top is going to end up to be, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch or perhaps even more narrower, which means that the skirt isn't going to fit properly, which means that the assembly to hold the legs in isn't going to line up with the screw holes, and that means that the shelf that sits about halfway up the legs, which is this piece, and these are cut in at a specific angle because the legs sit at an angle. So that's not going to fit right. So bottom line, Sue's going to strip it, refinish it all, Want to glue this top together before she does that, because oftentimes the residue from the stripping compound that is used seeps into the wood and makes for a weaker joint when you glue it. So I'll glue the top together, and then she'll strip it, and then we'll put it all back together, and we'll have another small table. The plan is to use the original screws. Now, people don't use these screws anymore. This is for a flat blade screwdriver, and that's before Mr. Phillips invented the Phillips screw and the Phillips screwdriver, and which begs the question, so now we're using Torx screws in a lot of things. Was that done by Mr. Torx? How'd they decide on Torx as the name? You know, these are things that are really important to ponder as you're in the shop working on your projects or driving down the road. Turn the radio off. Ask yourself those kinds of questions. How did that name come about? Some names I understand, and others beyond me. Somebody looked at that, I don't know, did they sneeze when they looked at it and said, this is what we're going to call it? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, the plan is to start doing some more boxes. Happy to report that my 100th box that I entered into the Washington County State Fair took first place. Happy for that. That's 2 entries into 2 different competitions and 2 first place, 2 different boxes, 2 different years. So I guess it makes me an award-winning box maker. So double the price on all the free boxes that have been given away. That's how that works. Award-winning free box. So I'm not necessarily looking forward to winter. I mean, it's only August 2nd today, so we got a lot of summer left. It's pretty nice outside today. It's in the high 80s instead of in the 90s, and we got some nice rain finally. We needed the rain. We had one day of really nice all-day rain, so that means that I get to mow the lawn today, which is what I'm going to do right after I push the stop button. So I don't really have anything else to say other than I'm in the process of thinking about more boxes. Bought some additional pieces of different exotic woods just because I'm addicted to wood for some strange reason. I don't know why. I go to the store and I look at wood and I sometimes don't buy anything. And other times I'll see something that's really pretty, it's got a really nice, interesting grain pattern, and I say, ooh, that's going to make a nice box. I got to have that. And I'm going to add that to the pile of wood that I have done the same thing with for whatever. I've gone to the store. I bought some more wood. Now, I'm going to be out of commission for a month. I'm having, Wednesday I'm having cataract surgery. So, right eye first, then you wait 2 weeks, then you have the left eye, then you gotta wait a month before you can get glasses. I will need glasses because I have an astigmatism and I corrected for distance vision and not for both the distance and the close-up vision. So I'll at least need cheaters, and then for the distance, maybe some minor correction along with correction for the astigmatism. So I will end up wearing glasses, but right now, as I look across the shop with the fluorescent lights in the background, everything looks like it's smoky in here. The right eye is worse than the left, but it's just continually gotten worse over the years. So it's time to get that done. So Wednesday we'll have the first surgery, and I'll be able to have clear vision, and we'll be back working in the shop again in September. So if you don't hear from me, don't be surprised. I haven't tipped out of the canoe, not yet, and no plans to do that. That's all I got for you today. I want to make sure everybody has a blessed day and enjoy the rest of August. Looking forward to a beautiful fall, because for me, that's around the corner when it comes to working in the shop. So that's it. You guys have a blessed day.
This is Dave signing off. Talk to you later. Take care.